Welcome to the Purely Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Logan Anderson, founder of Purely Performance and third-year student at the University of Washington. In today's episode, I'm sharing my journey as a pitcher through my high school career and how it led to me competing at the Division I level with UW. I'll be giving insight into what helped with my velocity jumps and what I would have done differently throughout this process. Let's get into it. All right, so last podcast we talked about my navigation through two Tommy John surgeries. We talked about kind of my college baseball experience as a whole and just the past 3 years of my life. And now I really want to touch on how I fell in love with baseball in the first place, what got me to Division I level at UW, and my progression throughout high school, some of the training that I did, and just my experience through my baseball career as a whole, so you guys can kind of learn from what I did and get to know me better, kind of hear my story. So it all started off at a very young age, probably 4 or 5, playing Little League baseball. I never actually played T-ball, which I think is kind of interesting because I feel like everyone has like T-ball memories, but I think I just played coach pitch, and they'd bring out like the tee if you were striking out. There's no strikeouts. It's just hit the ball off the tee. But definitely my love for baseball started then at a young age. I played baseball ever since then. So I obviously love it a lot. But yeah, my parents were very supportive in athletics as I was growing up. They pushed me to try whatever sports I really wanted to. I grew up playing soccer, basketball, football, baseball, and I actually played basketball up until my senior year of high school as well. And I played football up until freshman year of high school. And then we'll kind of touch on that later, but COVID hit and I made the decision to stop playing football, which every once in a while I kind of regret, but it had its reasons and it probably worked out for the best. But yeah, so I played Little League. I never had a very like young experience in travel ball. I really waited, was never like pressured into that until high school. So like a lot of kids out there playing 9U travel ball now, that was not the life I had. I wanted to stay well rounded with football and basketball as well for as long as I could. Um, but so my fall 2019 would have been my start of freshman year at Shorewood. Shorewood High School actually has a history for pitchers. For those of you that know, Blake Snell actually went to Shorewood, my high school, and there were some other notable names. Riley O'Brien, he actually was on the Mariners. I think he debuted with them either last year or 2 years ago. And then Ian Oxenavad, he's in the minor leagues right now. Some names, big names, so I didn't really know what to expect. I was really excited. I knew I had a history for pitchers, but honestly, I was not very knowledgeable about baseball at the time, my freshman year. I didn't know anything about scholarships or Division I or JUCO. All I knew was Little League at this point, and I played some like All Stars or something, but that was as far as my baseball knowledge really went. It was kind of just a hobby, but I hadn't really fallen in love with the game at that point yet. I started to meet some other players that went to my high school, baseball players, just through playing other sports. So I played football my freshman year, which was really interesting. I really fell in love with football. I was the quarterback for the freshman team. And something to kind of note for later on was I got sacked from behind on a play, like second to last game of the season, and ended up breaking my wrist in like this very small bone in my wrist. So I finished out the season. It wasn't like a big injury, but it definitely lingered lingered on down the line and caused some problems for me later on, which we'll bring up because I ended up getting a cast like probably, I think it was like 8 months later. I ended up getting a cast to see if we could heal it up. But played football, met some of the baseball dudes on there, heard about how they were training, getting ready for the off season, and then basketball too. I think we had a player or two on the basketball team. so I was kind of hearing that they were doing off-season training, and that's when I decided to join the Seattle Rainiers. This was a 16U team. This is my first ever travel ball experience, and like first ever time doing winter training, which is really weird to think about because it's like part of my everyday life now, baseball. Um, but yeah, this was my first travel ball experience, and we were in the cages hitting off the tees back when I would still swing the bat and doing some bullpens, whatnot, very basic stuff, nothing crazy, still pretty young. But this is my first like off season preparation time. Like I never really threw in the off season when I was in little league. But yeah, it was really fun. I had some buddies on that team. We all joined the team together, and it was just like a parent coach team, nothing too serious. Uh, yeah, so we go into spring 2020, and this would be my freshman spring. March, we had tryouts for baseball, and this was very eye-opening to me because I never seen this type of like level of baseball. Now, of course, it's high school baseball, so it's nothing crazy, but to me as like a 15-year-old kid only seeing little league and being around like little league guys on the field, this was like eye-opening because there we have 18-year-olds that are throwing the ball like 80 plus across the diamond, which was just mind blowing to me. And I never really knew my skill level, but I ended up making varsity most likely to just be a pitcher, definitely to just like come in and eat up some innings for the varsity team. I had no idea what like my mileage was. I didn't really know that, that was a thing. I had watched baseball, of course, but I never really paid attention to like velocity, and it just wasn't as glorified back then. I know, even like 6 years ago. But yeah, so I ended up making the varsity roster, and then the next day, COVID hit. So everything was pretty uncertain. I think we showed up to the field, and they were kind of like, "Hey, here's the situation. Sounds like we're most likely not going to be at school tomorrow anymore, and we're not going to be allowed to have practice. So everyone kind of just bunker down for a week or two, and then we'll get started and get ready for the season then." But everyone just kind of stay in shape. And little did we know that we would not be coming back to the field for a long time. So that happened. I was pretty bummed because I was really excited for my first high school baseball experience on a varsity team. Um, but yeah, 2020 spring, COVID. This was actually a very like monumental time in my career, I'd say. I started getting really into weightlifting over COVID. We had not much to do. So I was focused on bulking up. I was a really, really skinny kid. I was probably 6'2", 160 pounds ish, maybe a little bit less than 160 pounds. I have some crazy progress pictures from when I first started back then, and I was just skin and bones pretty much. So I really started focusing on weightlifting in my home gym, just some dumbbells and pounding food. I learned a little bit about nutrition, not nearly as much as I know today, but I was making huge mass gainer shakes with oats and mass gainer and milk, and man, I was just destroying my stomach, but it worked. I went from 160 pounds to 180 pounds in about like 2 or 3 months, I'd say. And a lot of it was just newbie gains. I definitely gained some fat, but not anything crazy. I think I always had some visible abs. Um, but I really fell in love with baseball during this time because I think I was just so excited for the season, and to have it shut down just was pretty heartbreaking. And one of my best friends at the time, Lucas Christensen, who shout out Edmonds baseball, he's playing at Edmonds right now, grinder, looking for his home next year. But we were great buddies, and he I think he had just installed a batting cage at his house around this time, and we just got after it once COVID hit. Like we weren't we were messing around most of the time, just hitting balls off the tee and whatnot. But I had my own bow net, and I would just like chuck balls into the bow net and work on my mechanics a little bit. Um, I was like trying to compare myself to like Shane Bieber. I have some crazy videos of me like side by side with Shane Bieber, comparing mechanics and trying to nail that down. And I was far from it. But yeah, I was a grinder then, just throwing into the net, kind of doing whatever I could to stay in shape. Um, we were still in contact with the Rainier team. Obviously, that was like kind of shut down during the high school season, and then there was no high school season because of COVID. And we found out that the summer season was just going to be canceled. So there was no summer ball, nothing. It was just like go train this summer and hopefully be ready by the fall to maybe be able to practice or do something together. Uh, but like I mentioned earlier, I had this lingering injury from football, which was actually still hurting, mostly when I would hit because it was on my left wrist. It was like in the middle of my left wrist. I just had this nagging pain that would never go away. And I ended up getting a cast on my wrist, on my left wrist, probably around July, I'd say. Um, and right around this time, a guy named Tim Lee reached out to me from the Shoreline Royals, and I had heard about the Shoreline Royals. I heard that they were a great travel ball program, and I knew that my head coach at Shorewood was a coach on the Shoreline Royals, Wyatt Tonkin. So Tonkin was a head coach at Shorewood. He was also like the pitching coach of Royals. And I knew a lot of Shorewood dudes played on Shoreline Royals. So I got kind of interested in this, and Tim Lee was like, "Hey, come out, come hang out. Like, love to meet you, and want to have you on the team." And I ended up going to the field. I was like, "Dude, what's wrong with this guy? He wants me, and I have a cast on my arm. Like, this is so strange. This has got to be like a prank or something." Almost. I was just so confused. I was like, "I can't really do anything. Like, I have a cast on my on my left arm." But I ended up going to the field, and I just held my glove with the tips of my fingers in my left hand, and I was just throwing at the field, and I would have to get the ball like rolled back to me or something every time. And I threw a pen at the field with Tonkin and Tim Lee. And I remember I like hit 82 or something. That was my first time ever on like a pocket radar. And I was like, what the heck does that mean? Like, is that good? And they're like, yeah, it's pretty good. You're throwing with a cast on your arm. I was like, okay, sounds good. So I decided to join the Shoreline Royals, and my buddy Lucas joined as well. So we were kind of going into it together, and we were just training buddies for the rest of the summer. I kept working on the pitching, and I got some good tips from them. This is when I learned about like J bands and whatnot, and how to like create a warm up routine. Tim kind of walked me through that, and I started working a little bit more one on one with Tonkin as well, just getting some mechanics advice, learning how to use my legs. I was just a really still a skinny, lengthy kid that was just trying to learn how to use his body. Um, but yeah, super fortunate that they reached out and pursued me and really wanted to turn my career around and help me fall in love with the game. So I'd say when I joined the Shoreline Royals is when I really started to realize like, hey, I might have something here. Like, this is kind of cool. These guys are talking about cool things, college baseball. They're teaching me about the different divisions and then the velocity and everything. So this is when I really started falling in love with baseball, and I decided I really wanted to pursue it and like put some hard work into it. So fast forward to fall winter of 2020. This is my sophomore year of high school, and we're still in COVID, so no school. I had my first PBR showcase because Shoreline Royals did like their own PBR hosted showcase. So we'd get like the 40-yard dash or something, and I would throw a bullpen. And this is when I was like really starting to learn about recruiting. I got some help from the Royals and obviously talking to some people at PBR. I was still like very new to all this baseball stuff. And I think I topped maybe like 82, 83 at my first showcase, which was pretty wonky. My mechanics were so off. Um, but that was in the fall, and then we went into that winter, and we joined up at Base by Pros in Linwood, which I actually still work out now at Base by Pros, which is pretty funny. But this was a time I started doing more intentional lifting with the team. We had a few lifting sessions in Base by Pros, led by some coaches up there, and then we would throw bullpens and do like live sessions in their cages there. And eventually, later in the spring, we got into actually more like sports again with high school because I remember playing basketball. Oh my God. Spring 2021, we were playing basketball with masks on our face. And it was like you could pull it down on the court, but then if you were like sitting on the bench on the sideline, you had to keep the mask on your face. Crazy times trying to play sports with masks, um, getting tested every week for COVID. So I was kind of focused on basketball season again, but I kind of balanced the two at this time because it was pretty low stakes at that point. I think we had like a 10-game season or something. And I was still training baseball a little bit, going to Base by Pros. We had no classes, so I had a lot of time on my hands. And I started working on a breaking ball, and it was just a work in progress. We'll keep it at that. But I did end up hitting 86 that off season, which looking back at it, I have no clue how I hit 86. I think I just got lucky. I was a little bit bigger of a kid, and I hit 86 like once that off season. So sophomore, winter, spring, I hit 86, but I sat like 81 to 83, and my breaking ball was just absolutely terrible, loopy. But it got the job done for what I was doing. And then we actually had a shortened high school baseball season. So we had masks on as well during that. I had to wear a mask on the mound, which was quite an interesting image. I have some pictures of me just alone on the mound with a mask on. And I sat low 80s with a loopy breaking ball. I think I don't even know. I could probably look at my stats, but we had like 10 games. I probably pitched like 3 times. Um, and I was 82, 83, breaker probably at 70 miles an hour, just hucking it in there. And then we had my first summer ball season, and I got a little bit more intentional with things. There was a little bit more pressure. It was like, hey, let's really start to work on some things and dial in those mechanics and learn to use my legs a little bit more. And I was actually sitting like mid 80s at this point during my sophomore summer. So I was up to like 85. I'd sit 83 to 85 and throw that looper in there. And I had a decent first summer ball season, and it was really interesting to see. I never had a summer that was full of baseball, so this was kind of eye opening for me to be playing tournaments every single weekend. And I really just fell in love with the game. I loved my teammates. Everyone at Shoreline Royals was super supportive and everything. So that was a great experience for me. And then 2021, fall and winter, it was my second off season, true off season, like putting intentional work into pitching. I was working on my curveball a lot, which definitely improved, and my velocity was pretty much staying the same. I was around the same as I was the summer before, like 84 to 85, and then I would top an 86 every once in a while. And these are all two seamers, by the way. But lifting was like not a huge priority for me. I was doing it, but I was just bodybuilding. I was lifting like a bodybuilder. I think I was hitting like a push pull legs split, lifting 6 days a week, just trying to get jacked and pounding the mass gainer still. So at this point, I was probably up to like 185, 190 ish on the scale. And I did have plans to play basketball that winter season. So right before basketball started, I remember I went down to UCSB. I was really obsessed with going to UCSB. I just loved their campus, and I knew they had a great baseball team. But I had no clue. I was pretty like blind when it came to recruiting. I didn't know what it takes. I didn't know what coaches are looking for much. And I was like, oh, I top 85 as like a sophomore. Now I'm like a junior, still I'm like 86. Had good stats in the summer. Like, oh yeah, I could go down there and see and talk to the coaches. So I paid to go down to UCSB and throw in their camp, and I threw like 2 innings. I threw all right, and I topped out at like 85 on their TrackMan, and they sent me all the records and stuff. And they're like, "Oh yeah, like we'd love to stay in touch," but it was just like, if you're not ready at those camps, if you're not a guy that's throwing 92 at least, like they're not even gonna look at you. So that's one thing. Before you go to these camps, make sure you have the tools to do it. I would reach out to anyone in the high division baseball space. If you know anyone in the division that the school you're like wanting to go to, like reach out to them and ask for brutal honesty. Like, do you think I have what it takes to get recruited by this school? And you'll be better prepared, because you're way better off spending your money on a good coach or a good training facility that you can just put time into and work on your game than going to these camps that are going to do absolutely nothing to you because you're not prepared. So I went to this camp and I was satisfied with how I did, but I was just like, okay, whatever. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to keep playing, and maybe I'll improve and I can send them some updated stuff later on down the line. And then basketball season started for the winter, and I kind of shifted my focus towards basketball during this junior year time. Our coach really was intense with practice schedule. It was like practice every day. I was on JV basketball then, so I was nothing crazy. I wasn't very good at basketball, honestly. I was just a defensive demon, and I loved to airball, so I never actually shot the ball. I would just swat and steal, and yeah, that was pretty much my game. And put back rebounds. So focused on basketball, just having fun with that. And then summertime, spring rolls around, this is junior year, 2022, and COVID starts to ramp down. And I think we were back in school at this time with masks on and different like sections. We were back at school for like 2 hours a day in groups, small groups, separated in the classroom. And we had sports seasons, obviously, basketball season. We had to wear masks on the bench, I think, still then. But high school season, we get into spring 2022. This is my junior year, and this is when I was really excited. I thought I was going to do some pretty big things this season, as we only had like 2 seniors, and I don't think either of them were pitchers. So I was going to be the main guy with my high school team. Had a big role, was the number one starter, and this year I sat mid 80s. I think I ended with like a 2.5 ERA and ate up most of the innings for our school. I would throw complete games almost every game, I believe. And I was still pretty much the same pitcher as my sophomore year, maybe a tick or two up in velocity and threw more strikes, but I was overall the same, just like 83 to 85, sometimes hitting some 86s. And then that junior summer, I ended up topping out at 87, which was really exciting. Like, I got super excited every time I would top out at a new number. I was just chasing velocity, and obviously I was pushing weight in the weight room, thinking that was going to get me a new number on the mound. But when you're just doing push-pull legs, that is not going to be the case. So I thought the more work I put in the weight room and gaining more weight and all that, and just throwing harder more often was going to was going to do it. And that just wasn't the case. I had some coaches tell me too, like, just wait, the velocity will come. Just like trust in it. Just keep doing what you're doing, keep throwing and working on it. The velocity will come. And honestly, like, yes, that's true for some guys, but in my case, it was not true. I just needed to work on things. I needed to work on explosive power. I needed to work on overall strength in my legs, and I really just needed help with the mechanics. So I did some showcase tournaments in that junior summer, but nothing really came out of it. I got a ton of JUCO offers actually. I think I got offered by like most of the junior colleges in the Washington area, like Washington State. And this was me topping out at 87. I wasn't like opposed to going JUCO, and I was actually really excited by these offers. This is my first taste of like college baseball. I had aspirations to go to the Division One level, but these junior college offers were amazing, and I ended up getting offered by Lower Columbia um, down in Longview, which is known as one of the better junior colleges in the country. So I was really, really excited for that. And I ended up doing a visit there at the end of my junior summer. And I committed to Lower Columbia with Coach Kurt Lipinski. Um, and I just loved everything that he had to say on my visit and loved the campus and loved how it was kind of still a little bit of ways from home. So I could go down there and kind of separate and just focus on baseball and like just live the college baseball life, and that was awesome. So I committed there, but I still had in my mind like there was a possibility if I put some work in, maybe I could sniff out some D1 offers or at least get interest for later on down the line, get my name on some radars for after my first year at a junior college. So then we go into my senior fall, 2022 fall. I took some time off in August after these showcase tournaments. I think it was only like 2 or 3 weeks, but then I got offered to go to the Baseball Northwest Fall Senior Classic down in Arizona. So I think that was, man, that was in like late September, maybe early October. So I started ramping back up right at the end of August, and I didn't really know what a ramp up was, to be honest. I don't know what I was doing at that time, and I kind of just started throwing again. And eventually, I got into bullpens, and I ended up like topping out at 83 in a bullpen. Like it took everything out of me to throw 83, and I remember just breaking down, freaking out. I was so upset. Like I have this baseball Northwest tournament in like I think it was must have been like a month or like 3 weeks, and I'm topping out at 83. Like they're gonna be so disappointed in me. I was 87 this summer, and now I can't even throw 83 in a bullpen. I'm trying so hard. And this is when my mom did some research after I had this breakdown. And she connected me with Josh Richardson over at Velotech in Redmond. And I did one session with him, and we set up TrackMan, got on there, and I threw terribly. But he pointed out like three different things that I needed to work on. And I remember, I think I was like throwing crossbody. My foot was just, my stride length was terrible. He just pointed out a bunch of things that I should work on. And we created a plan. And he's like, okay, this is what you're going to do over the next few weeks. Just really work on these mechanics. I want you to video yourself and try to get your arm in this position and your foot in this position, and we'll see where we're at. So then, like 2 weeks later, I came in and I was back up to like 85, 86, and I was feeling a lot more confident. And I literally just like grinded this stuff out every single day that he was telling me to do. We had a great plan, and I worked on the mechanics, and I was right back there. So I was super excited, flew down to Arizona, and I ended up throwing the best I've ever thrown at Baseball Northwest tournament there. I topped out at 88. I was sitting like 87, topping out at 88. I hit 88 like 5 or 6 times, and I struck out, I think, 5 guys in 2 innings and won like pitcher of the day at that tournament or something. So that was like super eye opening to me. That was like really instant gratification. The work I had put in for the past 3 weeks, like instantly paid off. And I was like, wow, what if I just stick to this and like keep working hard and making improvements towards my weaknesses and getting help from these pro guys. Josh Richardson was a pro guy, played on the Padres at one point. So this is when I really started to notice, like, okay, I might have something here. Like, I think I can just really work hard. If I put my head down, work hard, I think I could get some big gains here. So then I went back to Velo Tech after Baseball Northwest, and I met a guy named Ryan Roland Smith. He was referred to by one of my Royals teammates at the time, actually. Zaid had worked with him previously, and I knew he did like a winter program the previous year, and Zaid had seen some pretty big improvements, and he was sitting in the high 80s after working with Ryan Roland Smith. So I kind of inquired about his winter program, and I heard he was doing it again, and I kind of decided to commit to it. So that like early winter, or it would have been in November, I think we started doing the velocity program with Ryan Roland Smith, and then basketball. My senior year of basketball started right around this time as well. So I had some conflict, but this is the time in my career that I really want to highlight, and I want all the young athletes out there to really listen to this, because if you put your all into it, it can really pay off. And this was just like a crazy time in my life where I was so committed to baseball, like nothing was going to stop me. I really wanted to play basketball still. We had gotten a new coach, basketball coach, this senior year, and he was like revamping the program, and I really liked his ideas that he brought to the table. He was getting us all new uniforms and everything, so I was super excited about that, and it was going to be my first year on varsity. So I still tried out for the team, and I was going to play a like decent role in that. I was a pretty big kid, so I was just like defensive unit, and putting up layups on offense pretty much. But I grinded baseball during this time too. So I learned that hard work with intent can get you a long ways. So I did this Ryan Roland Smith program. I think it was every Monday night. We would be over at Base by Pros, or not Base by Pros. We'd be at Velo Tech every Monday night, throwing plyos into a net on like a drive line based program. Pretty much, it was like a big warm up. Um, we'd use the ladder, some like agility to get the feet warmed up and everything, stretch out the hips, and then we would slowly warm up with the plyos. This is my first time ever throwing driveline plyo balls. So we'd do some like pivot picks, and then we'd do all sorts of exercises, reverse throws, roll ins, walking windups, rockers, all this stuff. And it was like a slow build up. And then we would get into like velo phases and be ripping these plyos. And he would basically just see what your deficit is, like where maybe on the rocker you're not throwing the red ball as hard as you should be. So we just hammer out that red ball and like try to elevate that velocity over the next few weeks. We did some plyo ball pull downs as well, and same thing, just any low hanging fruit. We kind of attacked it and see where you saw some mechanical inefficiencies. And Ryan also helped with the mechanical side as well. So we saw some things. I was watching a lot of pro players, slow motion, and I was videoing like every single throw that I would do. So I'd be at basketball practice right after school, 3 o'clock, and be at basketball practice until like 5. And then I had my meal prep in my car waiting for me. Um, oh my God, I think basketball practice actually went from like 3 to 6. It was like 3 hours or something. and then I'd have my meal prep and all my baseball stuff waiting for me in the car, and then I'd drive off to either Velotech to go to the program with Ryan Roland Smith, or I would just walk out to our high school field and go throw against the wall there, throw my plow balls against the wall. Or there was days where I would even be long tossing in the dark in the middle of winter, long tossing in the field, freezing cold, just bundled up, and I'd have like 5 baseballs out on the football field, and I would have to do my long toss by myself. So I'd throw into the net out to like 90 feet, walk in, grab the 5 balls, walk out, throw them, walk in, grab them, walk out. And then once I got to the long toss pull downs, I would literally just throw them all the way to the other end of the field, run down there, grab them, throw them all the way back, run down. And it was just a battle back and forth, just throwing by myself. So I really learned hard work then. I think this is when I really got into like some David Goggins and like Ozzy Osbourne. I was just blaring that stuff, getting me through every workout, but I loved every second of it. This was also a pretty transformative time in my weightlifting like experience, because I had a weightlifting class every, or at least the winter and spring quarter of that my senior year. I had a weightlifting class for my first period class. So that was with the football coach. I knew him pretty well, and he let me do whatever I want in there, but he also guided me a little bit. He helped me out. I would ask him questions on like, hey, what do you think I should do for pitching? I did a lot of my own research, but I started lifting more like a pitcher. So I was doing more reverse lunges, loading up the weight, trap bar deadlifts, box jumps, a lot of single arm, upper body weightlifting work. So like single arm dumbbell press, single arm bench press, single arm dumbbell row, all that stuff. And I put on more weight. I think I got up to around like 190 during the basketball season. Before that, I had gotten up to like 195, but I lost some weight due to all the running from basketball season. But I was like lean, had a decent amount of muscle mass, and I was training hard in the weight room. I was throwing hard. My nutrition was pretty dialed in because I was meal prepping, and I was making sure I was eating enough to at least maintain 190 pounds, hang on to whatever I had. And I never threw a bullpen this whole time in the fall or winter. So I was literally just doing long toss sessions, max intent plyo velo days with Ryan, and he had like a whole program, so I knew what I was doing outside of that as well. It was like high day Monday, and then take Tuesday off, and then like slowly build up throughout the week and get ready for that Monday high day again. So we had a good plan spacing out the workload, but I didn't know nearly as much as I know now about workload and everything. But no bullpen was thrown during that off season. And then January, I joined back with Shoreline Royals. I was frequently in base by pros, kind of doing my own thing, stretching out. Oh, mobility was also a huge thing during the senior year. So I was doing so much stretching because there was days where I just couldn't lift because I had a basketball game later that night, and I was like, I don't want to have my legs just be torched. So I would literally just be in that weight room, in that weightlifting class, just stretching for like an hour straight. Um, I had a wrestler and football player who was actually in that class, and he was a massive dude. He was like, he had to be like 240 at the time, just hunk of muscle. And he was doing the splits and then going and squatting like 500 pounds. And I was like, dude, can you teach me, like, what do you do to get the splits? So he told me about like the split, kneeling split, stretch. And I was kind of obsessed with getting the splits too. And that's when my like mobility journey all started. So I really focused on stretching out my hips and my legs, my hamstrings, my quads, everything, and rolling out. But yeah, so I would do that stuff at Royals practices as well after basketball games, after basketball practices. And then once I guess I was still playing basketball in January, and I went into the Royals, and we decided that we were going to start like ramping up some actual bullpens and get some live ABs. And first time I stepped back on the mound, I hit 90 miles an hour, and that was like nuts. So that was beginning of January, and I think I just finished the velocity plyo program. Maybe I was still doing it a few days a week, but I hit 90 my first time back on the mound. I hit it once, and then I tried to hit it more after that, and the velocity started tanking back down like 89, 88. But I remember that first time so vividly because I built up to it. It was like first pitch 86, next one 87, and Tim Lee was just behind me. He goes like 86, 87, 88, 89. And I was like, what is happening right now? 90. I was like, oh my God, is it just going to keep going up? But 90 was the peak at that point. So basketball season wrapped up. Then we go into spring 2023. I was super excited for high school season. I hit this new number of 90 in the off season, and I was hyped for the season. I was like, this is going to be a big year for me. Let's just like focus on the high school season and just kind of don't listen to the noise. Just just focus on high school season. I wasn't really worried about recruitment or anything. I just wanted to have fun and enjoy my last ever athletic experience at high school. So that season, I was sitting 88-90 for all my games. I had an amazing year. I would go out every game, and it was pretty much, I think, a 7 inning like complete game almost every game. There was maybe 1 or 2 games where I had to get pulled early due to pitch count, but this is when I really started to dial in a routine. I had a really good pregame routine that I had, and then my post-game routine also. I started doing a little bit of arm care and all that, and I was 88-90 the first inning. Sometimes I'd drop a little bit further down as the game went on, but for the most part, I stayed around 88 miles an hour, 89. And I remember towards the end of the season, I had hit some like 91s, and I hit 92 and in like the playoffs. And I think it was around April, so like halfway through the season, the high school season, Jason Kelly with UW had reached out and told me that he had been at one of my games. He was sneaky about it because I did not know he was there. I guess he had heard some stuff about me, maybe some of the coaches. I know for sure some of the coaches that I knew. Ryan Roland Smith had put in some word for me, and then some previous like showcase tournament coaches had put in word, and he had come out to one of my games and watched me. And he called me offering me a walk-on spot, and he was just like, hey, we don't have any money, but we have a spot for you on the team. We'd love to have you. And I pretty much knew right away. I was like, wow, I'm going to take this. Like, I didn't tell him that right away, but I was so excited. This was insane. I was like, wow, I just put in all this hard work. It was literally every single day in the off season, putting my head down in the snow, in the dark, in the cold. I was getting my throwing in no matter what it took. I was weightlifting in the morning, basketball practice after school, throwing at night, meal prepping. Everything was on point, and it had all come down to this moment and finally paid off for me. And that was just such a rewarding time. And I really hope some of you guys listening right now get to experience that time, because it's just it's an unreal feeling, and it's something that you'll chase for the rest of your life. So I got offered that spot, came down for an unofficial visit, and committed on the spot once I was on my visit, and knew that that was the right move for me. So finished out that high school season with a sub 1 ERA. I think it was like a .68 and like 98 strikeouts or something. I was so mad. I wanted that 100 strikeout thing, but I was going to UW, so nothing really bothered me at that point. Um, Summer 2023 rolled around, and I kept working hard on the plyos, ripping the plyos, weightlifting. And once high school season stopped, I really focused on my nutrition again. And this at this point, I was like 195. And once I dialed in the nutrition, I shot up to 210, and I was lifting like heavy. I was lifting like a bodybuilder again for a little bit there to try and put on the weight. So I was up to like 205, 210, and the velocity climbed a little bit as well. So my average velocity definitely went up. That summer, I was probably like sitting more 90, and I was hitting a lot more 91s and a few 92s here and there. I ended up getting invited to the All-State game after my high school season. And I remember going into that game, I felt really good. We were over in Yakima, it was really hot. And I sat like 90 to 91, threw really well, but it was like one or two innings. And I was like, man, I need to get more out of this day. Like, I need to do some training now because I just threw like one or two innings. This is a high day. Let's get more out of it. So I remember going into the pen and throwing pitches in the pen while this game is going on. And I had a little radar gun set up. I did my whole plyo routine after I had already done my outing. And then I was just throwing as hard as I could into this net. And it was like 93, 93, 94. And I was like, what the heck? So I asked this random camera dude, like, hey, can you hold my phone and film this and put the pocket radar next to it? He's like, yeah. So he did it for me, and I kept throwing, and he's like, man, you throw really hard. And I was like, what is it? What is it? He's like, 95, 94, 95. I was like, what? That is insane. So that was my first and only time ever sniffing 95. I would go on to hit some 94s in college, but that was an unreal experience, hitting 95 in the pen at the All-State game in Yakima, and then coming into the dugout and being like, guys, I don't know what just happened, but I hit 95. And everyone was just like, what the hell? So I had people coming up, be like, dude, did you just throw 95 in the pen? But man, that was not what I should have been focusing on at the time. Because keep in mind, yeah, I was throwing 90, 91, whatever in game, but my only off speed pitch was like a slurve that I had no clue what I was doing. I was just kind of chucking it, and it was like 74, 75, throwing it in there. And I really wish that in the 2023 summer, my senior summer, I really just wish I focused on that off speed more and adding pitches and doing pitch design rather than trying to like gain velocity. That was something I really missed out on, and I felt like it could have been better prepared for college if I just worked on my pitches more, because I was really able to get through my senior high school and summer season just throwing straight fastballs because no one was touching like 91. And that's all I did. I just relied on throwing strikes and throwing fastballs by people. But that was not really productive for me and never added anything to my future. And it was kind of just like an ego boost of like, oh, yeah, I can just strike everyone out. Like, I wish someone would have sat me down and been like, hey, that's great that you can do that, but like, let's throw less innings and get more in the lab, in the pitch lab, and do some pitch design. Let's get a changeup going. At least start throwing that in your catch play, getting comfortable with some grips, and then let's make this curveball or slider, or whatever you want to call it. Let's make this like an execution pitch that you can throw in any count that you feel comfortable throwing, and that you're throwing more than like a 25% clip rate. Like, that's just not a high level approach to just blow fastballs by people. It doesn't work in the long run. So summer 23 ended out good, and hitting 95 was like the highlight of my summer. And I actually started working out with the UW team in that summer in like August. Once summer ball ended, I started lifting with Joe Murray and some of the UW baseball guys, and that was really cool experience for me. Getting to go there early and learn about weightlifting, and just coming onto campus, feeling like acclimated to the weight room and knowing some of the guys before everything got rolling, made everything super comfortable for me. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much my story up until UW. That's everything. That's how I got there. Uh, Now I just want to talk about some takeaways, the main things I want you guys to get from this conversation. I just want you to realize that it's never too late to work hard and commit to a dream. If you put your head down and really commit to it, like, you can achieve more than you can even imagine. But the first step of that is believing in yourself that you can do that. So visualizing and having that positive self-talk, and not just positive self-talk, just like positive identity. Like, you need to identify yourself as someone that is a hard worker. So reminding yourself, like, I can get to where I want to be. Like, I'm where I am and what I am because of myself. I'm in the position that I am because of what I've done in the past already. So I can write my future by just putting my head down and working hard, and things will come with that. The next thing is take action. Nothing's just going to come with time. So I was told that a little bit by some coaches. I was told that the velocity would come with time, the offers would come with time. And it wasn't true for me. Like, I needed to take action between my sophomore and junior year. Nothing really changed for me. I was training the exact same way, but expecting a different result. And like Tonkin used to say all the time, that's the definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And once you take some accountability and realize, like, hey, I'm not doing enough, or I'm not doing the right things, that's when you can make a difference. Make a plan, write it out, and get it done. That is like the number one way to make sure you make progress, is by writing it out. It makes it so much easier. If you, whatever you want to do, if you want to have a paper on your wall, or you want to have a Google Calendar filled out of, like, okay, here's what I'm doing every day, or you just have like a Google Sheet or a trainer that has a plan for you, write it out and check it off when you finish it each day. And it's going to be a huge difference, because just seeing that visual of, like, okay, I have my weightlifting today, I have to eat at this time, I have my throwing at this time, I have class, homework at this time. It can get really overwhelming, but if you have it all planned out in the day and you just stick to that plan, then you're going to make progress. You're going to get it done, and just check the boxes. That's all you have to do. You don't have to think about, okay, what do I have to do today? If you plan it out the day before, the week before, then you just check the box and get it done. Makes it a lot more simplified. Also, talking about that, seek help from professionals with testimony. Ryan Roland Smith was a great mentor for me. Even Josh Richardson, he helped me so much in that like month span that I worked with him. Just reach out. Maybe if they're referred by a teammate, or you see something on Instagram, obviously be careful with that, because you just got to really dig into like who they've worked with, what their experience is, make sure you're working with the right people. But like, if other people are having success with that person, like, maybe it's something to try out. Even if it's just for a month, like seeking help from professionals, getting different perspectives on where you're at in your career, what your mechanics are like, maybe some different drills that you could do just from some different minds, get a different perspective into your training program, and get that help. Like, if you don't know what to do in terms of a lifting routine, just reach out to someone that has success in that field, that has testimony with other athletes, that has testimony in their own career, and put your trust in them. Let them build you out a program and see if it works. Like, you don't need to do everything by yourself. Kind of going off the take action, nothing is just going to come with time. Don't just cruise because you're doing well. So, like I did, just chucking fastballs my senior year, blowing it by people, just because it works at this level doesn't mean it's going to work at a higher level down the line. Like, yeah, it's going to work in high school, but it's going to be a big eye opener when you get to college and those fastballs are getting hit out of the park. So work on your weaknesses, constantly hammer the things that might make you uncomfortable. If you don't like throwing changeups, or you're just not comfortable throwing your off speed and like a losing count, like, get comfortable with that. Your summer ball especially is like a time to experiment with some of that stuff. And then finally, last thing I want to leave you with here is, if you want it bad enough, you'll do it. Like, my senior year, I wanted it bad. And if you want it bad, you'll be willing to do it too. I had a lot of rough nights, honestly, that senior year. There were some nights after basketball practice where I was just like, man, this is the last thing I want to do right now, is go out onto that field that's covered in snow and go throw the baseball back and forth, run and go pick it up and throw it again. Like, that is the last thing I want to do right now, get all bundled up. I just want to go home. I have some homework that I got to do. I want to eat a nice meal, do a little bit of homework, and just go to bed. But then I would think about my dreams, and if that was going to contribute to my dreams, if that was going to get me where I wanted to be, and it didn't. So I just sucked it up, went out on the field and got it done, and it ended up paying off so much for me, and I was happier in the process later on. Like, I really fell in love with the process. I really had those rough nights like the first month, but honestly after that, I was so excited to go out there. I loved the cold. I was just like, give me any reason to not do this and I'm going to go out and do it. And I definitely was like listening to some David Goggins at this time, and I really do love David Goggins stuff. I know some people have a love-hate relationship with his kind of mantra, and I think some of it's pretty dumb, but a lot of it's rooted in great cause, and he takes it to the extreme. But there's definitely bits and pieces that everyone can take out of that, and if you want it bad enough, you'll do it, is a huge thing that he pushes. Just like, don't quit when you're tired, quit when you're done. That is the mindset that I was always taken into that off season. So just know that it's never too late. Keep pushing forward and chase your dreams. All right. Thanks for tuning in to the third episode of the Purely Performance Podcast. I hope the content was entertaining and you guys learned something that you can apply to your own baseball careers. Quick plug. I just want to make sure, if anyone is looking for training, that I do a performance mentorship, which focuses on mobility, lifting, nutrition, throwing plans, mechanics, pretty much everything a pitcher needs to be a college level pitcher. And I kind of guide you through the whole process and build out a plan based on your needs. So shoot me a direct message on Instagram at Purely Performance if that's something you might be interested in. And my DMs are always open to anyone just seeking advice or wanting to talk about anything baseball. I love talking about pitching, rehab, nutrition, lifting, anything. So shoot me a DM if you want to get together, get on a meeting, talk about anything performance related. And stay tuned for some future episodes on this podcast. Thanks for listening.